over 20 Claude Code tips that will change how you develop. And I guarantee, even if you have been using Claude Code for a while, there's at least one technique you have never seen. But here's the twist. We are doing this together, interactively. Pause the video right now, open the link to the task list in the description, which I created based on the official blog entry from Anthropic, which is also linked in the task list. For the next minutes, we will check off each tip as we master it. No passive watching, we are building your Claude Code experience together and expertise it step by step. Ready? Let's start with tip number 1. The first tip is to create and optimize the Claude.md. Therefore, we have to go into Claude and type the command /init. I already did this here, but we can do it again. This will analyze your complete code base, get the context which is relevant for Claude, and creates this file. So let's take a quick look at the file. So we have a little description here on top. This file provides guidance to Claude when working with code. So here's a comprehensive overview of the project. So it analyzes, as you can see here on the bottom in Claude, the whole project, but also your README, and gets the most important stuff of your project and writes it into the Claude.md. This file will then be taken every time you use Claude to execute your commands. So we have here the common commands for the project to run everything. We have the project architecture here. We have task system and a lot of other stuff defining the project. And for example, the routing and deep linking in my case for the task list advance, and a lot of other stuff. As we can see here in the example in the task list, you can also add code style, workflows, testing instructions, and add your own stuff that you think Claude needs to know. So if you have special commands, special tools, you can write this directly here in the Claude.md file, and Claude will then know about it. So my tools, and then I have here a tool, for example, and then you can describe for what it is. So back in the task list, you can see here as well, if you go here on the description icon, description that describes the Claude.md. So it sets up the context for Claude, automatically pulls the conversation containing project-specific information, commands, and guidelines. Let's go to tip number 2, configuring Claude.md files locations. So as you can see here, you have multiple possibilities to configure your Claude files. So there are this project-specific Claude.md file we got here. We already configured in tip number 1. But you have also the possibility to create a Claude.local.md, which you can add to your gitignore file as well. So it's not checked in. You push it to Git, so it's just for you. And then there are some other Claude.md files. For example, you can do this in subfolders for subcomponents as well. So I don't have in this project a frontend and backend, but in case you have a frontend and backend in your Git repository, you could create specific Claude.md files for the front end and for the backend, for example. So this contains then specific context just for the front end or for the backend. So here's also an example for components. So we could do this here in source components, in my case, and create a specific Claude.md just for the components, which is then more detailed to the components instead of the complete project. Last possibility here is to create a home folder Claude.md, which is then your personal reference. So this is a global Claude.md, which is used for all your projects. So every time you use Claude, it will use this Claude.md file in your home directory as well. So let's quickly check this out. So if you go to the home directory here, then you can see here, make this a little bit bigger. There's a Claude folder. We go into this folder, then we can already see here the Claude.md file. Mine is empty, but you could put in your commands which you want to use globally in each project you're working on in there. Tip number 3, set up permission management. So the first point here is interactive allow list building. So as you can see here, I put in a simple command, copy env.example to env.local. So it will ask me if it can use this tool. You can now proceed with yes. So it's a one-time thing. So you allow it one time. But you can also here choose option 2 to allow it for the whole session. So if I do this, it will not ask me again within this session for the CP for the copy tool. So if we allow this, it will now copy the file. So bullet number 2 here is the slash command for permission. So we type in slash permissions, enter, and then we can manage our permission rules here for the project. So as you can see here, I have a lot of tools and commands already allowed here, but you could now manage them here. Just enter, go in and delete specific commands if you don't want them to be in. You can also add a new rule here. So first one, add, and then you just type in your command for the tool you want to allow. So for fetching URLs, you would use the web fetch function, and for bash, as you have seen before, let's go back. We have here the examples. These are all bash commands we already allowed. A bit more down. No, I don't have a web fetch here, just bash commands. But you could add this here as well. The same you can do for deny. So you could deny specific tools and commands as well. Another thing you can do here is to add more workspaces. As you can see, I allowed here just my project I'm currently working on, which is the task list advanced. But you could add another directory which Claude has also access to, maybe for reference, documentations, or example implementations, which are lying in a different folder in a different project. Then you could just add them here. So here in the task list, you also got some examples for adding other tools and services. Step number 3 here is to add or to edit the settings files directly. So I listed here 2 settings files, but there are actually 3. So as you can see here, there's settings.local.json, but this is the one we edited with the /permission command. So I did not add this here. So this is also not committed to Git. So it's just local for you. You could create another one without the local, which is then also committed to Git and usable for everyone working with your project. Just copy paste this, remove the local, and use this as project settings for the permissions. Another settings file is in your home directory. As you can see here, I'm in my home directory and there's a .claude.json. This contains global personal settings. I will not show this because there are private keys as well in it, but you can take a look there and see what's persisted within this file. I'm not sure if you should change anything there, but you can look into this and see your personal settings. If you work with the CLI, you could directly put these arguments here on the Claude command to give it permission to a specific tool. So you can start Claude with -- allow tools, edit, bash. So it's allowed to use the edit and the bash command. Tip number 4, install and configure GitHub CLI. So this is very useful. So you should install the GitHub CLI to work with your Git project. So for example, if you have this installed and you are logged in, authenticated, here's step 2, then you can list your repo and you can also list issues. So let's quickly try this. So list the GitHub issues. I'm already logged in. So you will see now it uses the gh command to list all issues. It asks for permission. Yes, we allow it. And as we can see here, it got one issue back at support for token variable. So what you could now do is let Claude directly get the description of this issue and let it fix. So let's do this. Fix this issue in a new feature branch. And let's see what we get. So it says it's creating a new feature branch and fixing the token variable issue. So it created the new feature, updated the to-do list, what it needs to do, now researching the code base to understand the current code, and then can implement the rest. I will cancel this now because, just an example, I don't need this. And so here in bullet 4, you got a complete list of the commands it can use. And I listed here as well some benefits. So Claude understands the PR for pull request. You can commit messages and generation based on the context. Issue management, as we just saw, and you don't have to remember any commands. Tip number 5, integrating MCP servers. So you have here different options to add your MCP servers to Claude. So I listed here a few commands and some examples. You can try out yourself, but we will do together. So let's do Claude MCP here in the terminal. So I'm not already started Claude, so it's directly in the bash. And we see now all commands available for Claude MCP. What we can now do is add our MCP servers directly with add command and these arguments. You can import it from Claude Desktop if you use it and have configured some MCP servers there already. So I will show this at first. So I copy this command, Claude MCP add from Claude Desktop. And if we execute this, it will now list all MCP servers from Claude Desktop. I have a MCP Docker MCP server, which bundles a lot of MCP servers. I showed this quickly in this video, or gave a quick introduction to the Docker AI suite. And we can now enter here, and it now imported one MCP server to our Claude instance. So if we go into Claude now, and then do /MCP, then we can already see here my available tools from the MCP Docker. So we can also manage all MCP servers here. I already added Puppet here as well. And go into the MCP servers and then view all tools as well. So a lot of tools, as I said, here in the MCP Docker stuff. And I also got the Puppet here, which is the other example. Let's go back. And here in the examples, we can just copy paste this. So this is the Claude command, MCP add. Puppet here is the name, and then the argument to install the MCP server, npx in this case, and then the package you want to install. Enter, and it's installed and available. You can also list the MCP servers like this, and we see both. And here you can also see how the MCP Docker is added with which command. We can also do a quick test. Let's open Claude again. Here a small prompt, analyze Dynamos.ai and tell me what you see. And hopefully it triggers the MCP server for Puppet here and then analyzes what's on the web page. Okay, as we can see, it will use the MCP Docker in this case. It decided for this one, and it will fetch the URL. So let's allow this. So it could use the Puppeteer as well. So you can also mention this in your prompt to use the Puppeteer MCP server. And it could also do a screenshot then with Puppeteer to analyze this. That's more useful if you have specific designs or guidelines, and then you can do a comparison between the designs. that screenshot. As we can see, it worked well. It gave us the site details and meta information about the website I put in. So this is working fine. So just for reference, I added here some more informations, popular MCP servers, and as well a troubleshooting guide for the Puppeteer MCP server because I had some issues with that. So you need to install a few dependencies to get this working in WSL. So just check out the link, follow the instructions, and then the Puppeteer MCP server also works within WSL. Tip number 6. Create custom / commands. So within Claude, you have the ability to create your own command prompts within files. So here on the left, you can see the .claude folder. There's a commands folder, and within this, I created the fix GitHub issue.md, which contains some instructions on how to fix a specific GitHub issue. So it's basically a reusable prompt template, as you can see here in the description where I mentioned this. So what do we get here? So in this example, I wanted to analyze a specific GitHub issue, and you can pass arguments as well to this. Come to this in a second. Then it should follow these steps. So analyze or view the issue we passed, understand the problem within the issue, search the code base for relevant files, and then implement and test it. And at the end, it should also create a pull request. So push it to Git as well. You can now open Claude. And then let's just list the available issues first. List all Git issues. Important here is that you have installed the GitHub CLI as mentioned in the beginning. So as you can see here, it using the gh command to list all issues, permit it. And as we can see here, I got one example here. I created one issue to demonstrate it to you. It's number 2. And an easy way to share my local AI app with others. So let's fix this issue or implement this feature by using the / command. So we do / and we also already got the recommendation. Press select it here and press tab to use the completion. And then we can pass the issue number. So this 2, as we can see here. And then you will see it's now using this prompt template to analyze the issue and fix everything. So we have to give it some permissions again. So that's a very simple example, but it demonstrates how you can use the / command for yourself. So you can build very complex workflows here with multiple arguments and instructions. While this is running, let's quickly take a look to the task list here again, because you can do personal commands as well. So the command I showed you here is within the project. So it's only available here in the local AI package commands, but you can also create global commands. So let's open another Claude instance here in a new terminal. And in the meantime, I created another one, which is personal. So as you can see here, I've got my test personal global command, which is available for all my projects. So this is located in your home directory. So if we go to cd home and then go into the Claude folder, list all files, then we can see here the commands folder. You can create this folder manually if it does not exist. We go into it, ls, and as you can see, I got here my example command. So it's an empty file at the moment, but you can see it's available for usage. So you can create a prompt template library for yourself you can use in each project. Tip number 7, leverage bash tools and environment. If you got existing tools you want to use within Claude, or Claude should use them to do specific things, like deploy staging or run migrations for your SQL files, then you can mention them in your Claude.md file. We already had this open before, and you could add at the end a new section for adding those tools and describe how Claude should use them. So I have an example here to just let Claude create the needed description in a Claude.md file for, in my case, the gtr.sh file. We come to this back later in another tip. But what we can do now is copy this prompt here, analyze the GTR file here, for example, and add a section at the end of Claude.md on how to use this tool. I also added keep it short, otherwise it will add a very long description, but this depends on your use case and how complex your script is. In best case, you just try it out with a shorter description, and if it doesn't work, then you can enhance or add more information to your Claude.md on how to use that tool. So let's fire this up and see what we get. So as you can see here, it's now reading the gtr.sh script and also our current Claude.md file. And it should now add here at the end our tool description. So we got here a preview and we want to accept it. And now we got here our description in 10 lines, what the tool is, short description, the key commands, and when to use it. So Claude now knows how and when to use this tool. So always make sure you have proper documentation of your tools, so Claude knows exactly how to use this tool. So here in the task list, I also got some usage examples, so you can also just write one sentence, maybe that's enough. So for example, use deploy staging to deploy this feature. And you can also tell Claude just to explore the documentation. For example, we could do a one-liner in the Claude.md, just mention this tool and tell it to get the documentation from the tool itself. So I have a comprehensive description of the tool here at the beginning, so this would also work. So here in point number 4, I listed some tools Claude knows by default. So it's within the training scope of Claude, so it knows how to use them and will use them while running your commands. You can often see, at least for me, I saw this often, it says fail to use this command, and then it tries to do or to use another command. So if this happens, I would recommend you check the tools yourself, and if it makes sense, just install them. So for example, for me, the ripgrep command was not installed in my WSL environment, and Claude used them very often and always failed. So I installed this tool and made sure with this it can use it in the future. Tip number 8. Master the explore, plan, code, commit workflow. So this is a 4-step workflow you can use to follow a structured approach that emphasizes research and planning before implementation to get better results for complex problems. So the first thing you would do is to explore. So tell Claude to read a specific file or specific files and on how to handle specific things. So this is a 4-step workflow. So you explore, then you plan, then you code, and then you commit your work. So I have some examples here. So read the logging file for exploring and understand how the handling works. The next thing is to plan. So you can also use, or you should use here with Shift Tab, you can switch to the plan mode for Claude. So it's then not able to write any files, so just reading and planning. So you do a detailed plan with this example prompts here, and at the end I would recommend you also write this plan into a file, for example in the task.md, so you can follow that, or Claude can follow that in the future. What you also can do is trigger specific syncing levels of Claude. So there are 4 available, which is normal syncing, sync, then is sync hard, sync harder, and ultra sync. And depending on which one or which keyword you use in your prompt, as you can see here, ultra sync about potential security implementations or implications, it will use more computation time and more tokens to investigate your problem or into the planning. So it will take longer and cost more. So if you are on the API plan, for example, you have to pay more. It doesn't matter if you have the Pro account or the Max account, because you don't pay per tokens, but it will also take longer and use your token limit for the day or for the next 5 hours. In step number 3, you would then implement everything with these example prompts and go through the task list. And at the end, if you have done everything and everything is implemented, then you can commit and push your changes to Git. So as mentioned here at the end, step 1 and 2 will prevent Claude from going directly to coding and do proper planning at the beginning to get better results. This improves performance and is better for complex problems. Tip number 9, implement test-driven development with Claude. So again, we have a few steps here you can follow. I will not go into detail, but because it's just another workflow as we had before in tip number 8, you can just try this out and follow these steps to get better results. So the benefits from this one are peer iteration target, Claude can evaluate and improve incrementally, and you get a higher code quality through better test coverage. Tip number 10, write specific and detailed instructions. I have here 3 poor examples and 3 good examples on how to write a proper prompt. So bad is, for example, add tests for foo.py. Because not much information within this, better is write a new test case for foo.py, covering the edge cases when the user is logged out, avoid mockups, and test the actual authentication flow. So you have much more detail within this prompt. So the key principle for writing prompts or detailed instructions are provide context and examples, as you see in the good examples here above. Mention specific constraints and requirements, explain the why behind the request, so it has more context, and if possible, reference existing patterns or files when applicable. So if you have already something similar, then reference to this. Or you can also reference to another project or website, documentation, whatever. The last thing is be explicit about what not to do. This ensures a higher success rate. Tip 11. Use file references and tab completion. So here are a few examples on how to use referencing and tab completion. In the first bullet, we can see it has a source, and we type compo, and then we can press tab to do the completion for getting components and then user dashboard if we type more. So the main thing is here, if you have specific files you want to work with, then you should mention them in your prompt. So you can do this with add. So I can show you here. If we type add, then we get some files it finds here in the root directory. You can also use components then, for example, and then it shows everything in components as well. And then you can just choose from here and then go on with your prompt specific to this file, directory, whatever. If applicable, you can also reference specific files you want to talk about or want to fix something or get explained. You can do this as well. And if you're on Linux or Mac, you can also use the IDE integration and just mark the specific part in your file if you have it open, and then you can use it in your prompt. That's not working for me in WSL on Windows. At least I didn't get it to work. I did not invest much time, but it did not work so far. But on Linux and Mac, it should work for you the same as here in Windsurf. So if you then use it for chatting, then you see here on the right, it marked the specific file and the lines. So the IDE integration you can get with /IDE, and then you can manage the IDE integration and show status. And for me, it's not working here, as you can see, but you should be able to install the plugin then on Linux and Mac, and it should work. So here are more examples you can take a look at. And yeah, the benefits are here: get proper context, reduces misunderstandings, and helps with a larger code base. So everything is set up for success. Tip number 12. Provide URLs and external context. So what you can do is paste directly any links you got from documentations and so on directly into your prompt. Claude will then fetch the website and get the information out of this. You can reference documentations, for example here Stripe. The Stripe API is linked here, so Claude has the newest information about the API. In bullet 3, I got a few examples how to add specific domains, so it will not ask every time for permission. So we had this in tip number 3, I guess, how to handle permissions, so with the /permission command. And I mentioned before in tip number 3 that I don't have an example other than the bash, but here we got now the web fetch examples. So for example, you do web fetch, domain, and then do the docs. And I just see that there is something missing. Here's a colon missing. Let's add that. Oh, that's wrong. This is correct. And the same here. These commands are correct now for adding specific domains. It can fetch without asking for permissions again. So you can also combine URLs with specific instructions. So in this example, read the React query documentation and then do some stuff based on this. Another thing you can do is reference Stack Overflow for specific things and then apply the solution you found there to your code base. Benefits here are ensure Claude has the latest information. If you, for example, provide a documentation, a API documentation, and so on, it reduces hallucinations. And if you provide proper documentations, references, and so on, it ensures you align with best practices. As this video is already half an hour, I decided to split it in 2 parts. So that's it for part 1 with tip 1 to 12, and we go on in the next part with another 10 to 15 tips. So stay tuned for the next video and I hope to see you there. Later, then you can find this video here.